Is brown sugar healthy? What would you say to people who tell you that brown sugar is a healthy sweetener or that brown sugar is healthier than white sugar? Would you agree with them or would you disagree with them? Welcome to the Habits Pharmacy, where habits become medicine. I'm Dr. Chan, your host. In this episode of Know What You Eat, I want to tackle these common questions about brown sugar that I often get asked by people, including my patients. Is brown sugar healthy? Or is brown sugar healthier than white sugar? But before that, let's do a short and quick review of some of the key facts about brown sugar so that you can come to your own conclusion about whether it is correct to say that brown sugar is really healthier than white sugar. Usually, when you go to the supermarket at the sugar section, other than white sugar, you would find a whole range of brown colored sugar crystals with many different names such as light brown sugar, dark brown sugar, demerara sugar, turbinado sugar, sucanat sugar, muscovado sugar. It can get quite confusing. Are they all brown sugar? To some people, brown sugar only refers to the first two examples here. That is the light brown sugar or the dark brown sugar. But for all intents and purposes, in the practical sense from a consumer perspective, all these are brown sugar. That is, they are all sugar that are brown in color that can be used to sweeten food and drinks. For the purpose of this video, I shall keep it simple and refer to all these different sugars as brown sugar. So, if they're all brown sugar, how do they differ from one another? And more importantly, what do they have in common and how do they impact our blood sugar? Let's cover these 7 facts about brown sugar next, starting with their differences. Number 1, differences in terms of what they are made from. Some brown sugars are made from sugarcane, whilst others are made from sugar beets. Number 2, the differences in how they are made. These different types of brown sugars differ in the way they are made. Some brown sugars are made by adding molasses to white sugar. In fact, you can even do this at home by adding some small amounts of molasses to the white table sugar you have at home and mix well, and you will get this type of brown sugar. That is, brown sugar made from adding molasses to white sugar. While some other types of brown sugars are the slightly less refined versions of white sugar that retained some small amounts of molasses. But essentially, although there are some differences in how they are made, most of the different types of brown sugars share some of the core manufacturing and processing steps that turn the juices of sugarcane or sugar beets to crystallized white sugar. Number 3, the molasses content of different types of brown sugar. These different types of brown sugars contain different amounts of molasses, leading to the differences in color and texture. In general, the more molasses they contain, the darker brown they are. Number 4, this actually is the biggest difference that distinguishes one type of brown sugar from another. The taste and flavor of the different types of brown sugars can differ greatly, and it is mainly due to the differences in the amount of molasses they contain. The more molasses they contain, the stronger the taste and flavor of the brown sugar. The choice of brown sugar will also affect the texture of your baked foods. Hence, some types of brown sugars are more suitable for adding to coffee and drinks. Some are ideal for certain desserts recipes and others better for baking. So for most people, this is actually the main reason for their choice of a type of brown sugar. The main criteria for choosing a specific type of brown sugar to use over another. Number 5, the differences in nutrient content for different types of brown sugars is not the reason most people choose one specific type of brown sugar over another. Because the differences in nutrient content are actually very minor. The differences in the amount of minerals and vitamins found in the different types of brown sugars are due to their differences in their molasses content, which are rich in minerals and vitamins. All brown sugars have a small amount of molasses, and different types of brown sugars contain slightly different amounts of molasses, leading to the differences in the minerals and vitamins content for the different types of brown sugar. Although having said that, the differences are in reality very minor, and the amount of minerals and vitamins that they contain is also not very significant. That is why the choice of any specific type of brown sugar over another should not be based on nutrient content considerations. All these different types of brown sugars differ slightly in these 5 different aspects, the most significant of which is in their impact on taste and flavor when added to food and drinks. Next, let's talk about the key similarities of these different types of brown sugars, the 2 key facts that have significant impact on our health. and that is their sucrose content, glycemic index, and impact on blood glucose. All types of brown sugars are high in sucrose content. White sugar, that most people would deem unhealthy, is almost 100% sucrose, whilst brown sugar, regardless of the type of brown sugar, are about 90% or more sucrose. That is to say, brown sugar, all the different types of brown sugar, is essentially about 90% white sugar with varying small amounts of molasses. Hence, that is why the glycemic index or GI of brown sugar is not very different from the GI of white sugar. All types of brown sugars and white sugar have very similar glycemic index or GI, which are generally at least 60 or higher. And that means that all different types of brown sugar are not any different from white sugar, have similar and significant impact on our blood sugar within the first couple of hours after consumption. So now, having gone through all these 7 facts about brown sugar, let's come back to this question. Would you describe brown sugar as a healthy sweetener? Would you say that brown sugar is healthier than white sugar? For me, I would not use the word healthy to describe brown sugar, and I would not even say that brown sugar is healthier than white sugar. I think it is more correct and useful to simply see brown sugar as essentially almost the same as white sugar, albeit with small amounts of additional vitamins and minerals. Sometimes I would even use this analogy to teach my patients to better understand the difference between white sugar and brown sugar. That if we liken white sugar to a credit card, and that using the credit card means taking on a debt with high interest rates, then brown sugar is also a credit card through which usage will likewise lead us to incur similarly high interest debt, with the only difference being that it comes with some additional small free gifts and card benefits thrown in. That even though a credit card that comes with some freebies and additional card benefits can be said to be the better credit card than a card without any freebies or card benefits, but it is still a credit card that will lead us to incur a high interest debt that we should use with care and minimally, especially for people who are already in debt, for people who are already having problems with their finances and who should avoid going deeper into debt. So likewise, for brown sugar, all of us, regardless of whether we have diabetes or not, should be mindful of our intake of brown sugar, just as we should be mindful of our intake of white sugar. Because brown sugar is essentially still mostly sucrose or white sugar, with some very small amounts of additional minerals and vitamins. And we could all do well to minimize our intake of all added sugar, including brown sugar, in our food and drinks. I've always and will continue to advise my patients, my family and friends, anyone and everyone who is willing to listen, that if we want to unlock the power of our habits as medicine to prevent and combat diabetes, cardiovascular disease, and other chronic diseases, we should try our best to develop and enjoy an eating habit where added sugar in our food and drinks is minimized as much as possible, to the degree that one is willing and able to. Let habits be thy medicine. Eat well and be well.